Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Father-Son Packers podcast, your brand new source for Packers news, notes, and information. My name is Tommy, and I'm here, as always, with my co-host, my dad, Matt. Dad, how are you doing?
Okay, just finished watching that Thursday night Broncos-Colts extravaganza. I think the most entertaining part of that was reading all the comments by hearing them from announcers and other players.
Yeah, we are coming to you live here from Thursday night, giving you this pregame as we do every single week. Man, do I need a strong drink after watching that game.
Why? You should already be knocked out.
That was abysmal. I need a strong drink and a long night's sleep. My goodness, what an awful game. What an awful game. And I was listening to Robert Mays and Nate Tice of the Athletic Football Show just now, their live show. And they were saying, man, there have been some bad games, but has there ever been such a bad game from two teams that were supposed to be good? Man, that was hard to watch. And Russell Wilson and Matt Ryan are cooked. That was bad.
Yes, let Russ cook, and I guess he cooked himself?
Russ burned the kitchen down. Russ burned the street down. That was terrible. But anyways,
I think my favorite comment was from RG3. That Amazon owes everybody a free month of Prime after watching that game.
It's a good one. You know what my favorite was?
What?
Matt Flynn tweeted, "Well, I could have done that," which was by far my favorite. But anyway, we are not here to talk to you about this horrible Broncos-Colts game. We are here to talk to you about the Packers' upcoming matchup against the Giants Sunday morning versus in London. And before we get into that, though, it is important for us that you guys come and check out our Twitter, at FatherSonPacker. We'll be posting all about our new episodes there. We'll be retweeting Packers news, tweeting our thoughts on Packers news, kind of trying to keep you guys updated. So you can find us there. Once again, that's at FatherSonPacker. And then if you want to follow us on YouTube or subscribe to us on YouTube, that is Father Son Packers Podcast. Both of those, if we could get those numbers up, that would really help our engagement. We would really appreciate it. But yeah, so those are our two quick pitches before we dive into this pregame like we do every Thursday. And then we will also be having a postgame on Sunday night that you can listen to. We do 2 pods every single week. And yeah, if you like what you hear, come keep checking us out. But Dad, you ready to get down into it?
Sure. Let's start, I guess, with the injury report. And also just mention that I think the Packers plane is going to land in like an hour from when we're recording this right now.
Yeah, you were just checking out the flight tracker like a true psychopath.
Somebody had tweeted what they thought was the flight that was being tracked. And they said it was like the most tracked flight in some route. And now they're like over Wales right now, it looks like.
Wow, they're getting real close.
Yeah.
But anyways, for this trip to London, that's a heck of a flight from Lambeau. We have the injury report here as of Thursday practice, which will probably be the most up-to-date one we get until the official declarations are declared. But I'm going to read off the Packers ones really quick first, and then we'll kind of see what we think about them. And then we'll hit the Giants ones, which are very lengthy. But just to start with the Packers, Jair was a full participant on Thursday's practice after being limited on Wednesday. So it sounds like his groin is healing well, knock on wood. And then Adrian Amos was a limited participant on Thursday after being a non-participant on Wednesday with a concussion. So it sounds like he's advancing through the concussion protocol. And Dad, you did the deep dive into the Packers photos before the plane and saw that he is in fact on the flight. So that's a good sign.
Or at least he was in the photos of people getting on the bus going to the flight.
It's all the mind games. It's all the mind games.
Right? Is that just for the Giants to spy on?
To throw them off.
That was on the official team site.
But yes, Adrian Amos, we think it looks like he's on the plane.
He's well enough to fly, which is something you have to progress to be able to do after a concussion.
Yeah. Bakhtiari was limited with his knee all week. Elton was limited with his knee all week. Tariq Carpenter has been limited with an abdomen injury. Alan Lazard is still limited with that ankle at practice. Josh Myers was limited this week with a foot injury. And then Devontae Wyatt, the Packers' first-round pick, who hasn't really done a whole lot yet, but we're hoping for some big things still, was a DNP Thursday after being limited on Wednesday with a quad injury, which does kind of seem like he's trending towards not playing.
You go in the wrong direction. And his rating on limited snaps last game was pretty good. And they're very limited, like 7 snaps or something.
Yeah.
but did well in those few.
But yeah, with that quad injury and moving from limited to DNP on Thursday,
That's
doesn't
the
look good for him.
concerning part.
Yeah. Any thoughts on any of those injuries that stick out, or do you want to move over to the Giants side?
I mean, I think in a lot of cases it's good news. I think some of the Bakhtiari, Elton, and Lazard seem to be kind of the weekly standard for now.
Yes, and speaking of weekly standard, I should also add that Mercedes Lewis had a veteran rest day on Thursday. I didn't even think it was something that needed mentioning because he always takes Thursday off, but just to throw it in there, he did not practice on Thursday as well.
Yeah, and let's move on to the Giants.
Yeah, so for the Giants, they have a really long injury report. 2 quarterbacks, 4 receivers, 4 defensive backs, 2 D linemen. I mean, they're really
5
dinged up
golden
right
rings.
now. Yeah. Dun, 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 dun. But no, not to joke about injuries, but they are really dinged up right now. So Kenny Galladay, Kadarius Toney, Azeez Ojulari, Cordell Flott, and Henry Mondeau are all not even traveling. They're not even making the flight to London, so they won't play at all. Beyond that, Daniel Jones has been limited with the ankle injury he sustained playing against the Bears. Tyrod Taylor was a DNP on Thursday, still in concussion protocol, so it sounds like he's moving a little more slowly through that than Amos.
But he still flew.
But he did still fly, so that is important to note. That's a good note, Dad. Evan Neal, their rookie right tackle, 7th overall pick, was limited with a neck injury. Leonard Williams, one of their better defensive players, their interior D lineman, was limited with a knee injury. Wan'Dale Robinson, the rookie receiver, was limited with a knee injury. Richie James was limited Thursday after being in DNP on Wednesday, so it sounds like he's trending up with an ankle injury. He's really stepped into a actual pretty prominent role for them at receiver. Julian Love, one of their defensive backs, was limited Thursday after being a DNP Wednesday with a concussion, so it sounds like he's progressing through concussion protocol a bit faster. Nick McLeod was limited with a hamstring, and Fabian Moreau was limited with a foot. Dad, any of those jump out to you besides Daniel Jones, obviously, their starting quarterback being the big one?
Yeah, and particularly because he does a lot with his legs, seeing as it's an ankle injury. We'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, you could really tell he was laboring out there on Sunday versus the Bears. He couldn't move.
Right, because he had to go back in at one point, right? After Tyrod Taylor's concussion and then a little bit of wildcat. I guess he was lining up wide at one point.
Well, I heard speculation.
I heard
speculation that they had him in there. Yeah, he was lined up wide, just kind of pretty much standing out there. But I heard speculation they had him out there because he had the green dot, and they needed him in there to call plays.
Oh. Is that what it was?
And they were pretty much playing 10 on 11 on offense. But yeah, so those are the injuries. A lot to keep track of, a lot to keep an eye on. Probably going to have a pretty big impact on this game. But Dad, do you want to move on to the meat of our game preview?
So let's go on. Is this the meat? Well, this is something anyway. Let's start with our
I guess this is the
preview.
appetizer. Yeah, this is the appetizer.
Our blast from the past. So the most recent meeting between the Packers and the Giants was in December of 2019. That was, if you remember, it was the year where the Packers offense was really cruising, right?
No, this was the year.
This is not. This is December 20.
Yeah. This is the year their defense was really cruising.
The defense was good, but the offense is right. This is not the high. That was 2020. Yeah, I'm talking like an idiot. Surprise, surprise.
Hey, we gotta have some kind of brand for the show.
So this is the year where they were. This was LaFleur's first year.
Yep.
Where the offense was pretty wonky from time to time, but in this game the Packers actually put up big numbers. They won 31-13 over the Giants, and there are a lot of players on both teams that are still there. So,
a lot of familiar faces, yeah.
So Daniel Jones went for 20 for 37 for 240 yards. 1 touchdown, but 3 picks.
Yep, not the best.
not good,
Saquon
Bob.
had 19 carries. Not good, Bob. Saquon had 19 carries for 83 yards, so 2 people you're probably going to see in this game.
Yep. Rodgers threw for 4 touchdowns. Lazard led the team with receiving yards, 103 yards, and had a touchdown. But
I remember this game now. It was snowing. The ground was covered in snow.
Oh, that one. Yes,
I remember this game because Lazard had that deep crosser from right to left. That was his big play of the game. He caught it sliding around the ground. Yes, I remember this game. Darnell Savage
was
had
like
a pick,
43, 46-yarder. He only had 3 catches for those 103 yards and touchdown.
Because to be honest with you, I was writing this up and I was like, man, I do not remember this game at all. But now I'm remembering this game, yes.
Adams led the team in catches, but didn't have the most yardage. And they struggled to run the ball, actually, a bit, it looks like. Jamal was okay. He was averaging like 4 yards carry. He led the team in yards. But
we miss you, Jamal.
Aaron Jones, he struggled. He did not do well, in his yards per carry was, I think, in the 2s.
Yeah, and so now that I'm remembering that game, that was a fun game. Some not so fun memories of the blast from the past with these two teams is, of course, these teams have some playoff history.
Do we really need to go there?
I think we should mention it at least. There's some history between these teams. So in 2011, if you don't remember, the Packers were 15-1. They were the first seed. They were coming off a Super Bowl win, trying to repeat, and they lost to Eli Manning in the divisional round pretty badly. They got kind of smoked, actually, and that Giants team went on to win the Super Bowl. The Packers kind of got them back in the 2016 season when they beat the Giants in the wild card round in the infamous boat trip game for the Giants, if you guys remember that.
This is when the whole receiver crew, including OBJ, went down to Florida before the game for a boat tour.
Yeah, and if he wants to come back to Green Bay after being out on a boat for a little while now, kind of run it back, come hang out in Green Bay after being on a boat for
Apparently,
a minute.
Aaron Rodgers
play in
is
Green
okay
Bay.
with it.
I mean, did you see that he was on the list of 5 teams that Marcus Spears tweeted that then OBJ retweeted?
I hadn't seen that. Was that today?
That was 2 days ago. So
Marcus has been sort of this.
Well, let me say real quick. Marcus Spears tweeted. OBJ tweeted, like, who do you think I'm going to go to? And Marcus Spears, who is NFL Live, ESPN, one of the big people in football there, very good work, tweeted Buffalo, the Rams, the Packers, the Ravens, and I think the Chiefs as, like, his 5 teams to keep an eye on. And then OBJ, like, replied and said, you and I see eye to eye. And so, on the short list. But anyway, we are not here to talk about OBJ.
Because I had seen, I think, later things about OBJ, like liking or looking at tweets about Rodgers' play. Mm-hmm. And then Rodgers on the Pat McAfee was this week was talking about OBJ.
Yeah, that was all before this. This happened like yesterday.
Oh, okay.
But he also got, just to add one more thing that I thought was funny, someone tweeted the odds that Vegas has to what team he goes to next, and he retweeted and said, anybody know if I'm not on a team, I'm allowed to bet on this? Which I thought was pretty hilarious.
That's pretty good.
But anyway,
he's not in a contract.
He's not an NFL player right now, so just something to think about. But anyway, that's that's the blast from the past for the Packers and the Giants. Some history between those teams, time they last played. Do one of those for all of the pre-games. But the next thing is what's going on in Giants world, where we kind of talk a little bit about what the Giants have been up to this season. Kind of paint a picture just so you have a thought on what the opponents look like. And most recently, the Giants beat the Bears last week 20-12 to move their record to 3-1. Pretty strong record on the year. Daniel Jones only threw for 71 yards and no touchdowns, but he did run for 68 yards and 2 touchdowns. Like we did say, that he is a threat on the ground. He's pretty fast. He did sustain an ankle injury later in the game, and then his backup, Tyrod Taylor, had to come in. But then, as we said, Tyrod Taylor suffered a concussion in that game. And so they had to kind of finish the game running this weird Navy-style triple option with Saquon taking direct snaps out of Wildcat and Daniel Jones way out on the sideline, like we said. Saquon had 146 yards and 2 touchdowns, rushing, and 1 catch for 16 yards in this game. I mean, Saquon was pretty much the entire offense in this game, huh, Dad?
And he's looking good again, back like he did before his injury.
He's looking.
He's moving well. He's got burst. He's playing really. He's looking really sharp.
Yeah, I mean, he looks like the. I mean, is it crazy to say he looks like the best running back in the league this year? There was one
I think
play.
That's fair. I think he's been the best, and he's leading the league in yards per game. And
yep.
And he's looking good.
Did you see that one play he had on Sunday versus the Bears where he ran right? They had him dead to rights, like 8 yards behind the line. He breaks 2 tackles, sprints backwards like 8 yards, and loops back and ends up like with a 30-yard gain.
I think I missed this one.
I'll send it to you. I'll send it to you after the podcast.
Watch it later.
But
I haven't watched too many highlights of the Giants yet. I need to rewatch a game.
I'm hoping I don't see that on Sunday. The Bears in this game, though, part of the reason the Giants were still able to win it is the Bears fumbled 6 times, and the Giants recovered 3 of them and sacked Fields 6 times and hit him 9 more times. Like, my goodness, they were getting after him in the backfield, or in the backfield.
Yes, yeah, they were working over that Bears offensive line.
Yeah, even better than we worked over that Bears offensive line, to be honest. But that's kind of what's going on in Giants world. Like we said, they are 3-1 with wins over the Titans and the Panthers and the Bears. Their 1 losses to the Cowboys, so they haven't played a lot of teams so far, or a lot of strong teams so far, as it were. But good record. They're beating the teams that are on their schedule, and that's the most they can do. But Dad, do you want to move to our general thoughts on this game?
Sure, we can get to our general thoughts of the game, and you want to start? Shall I start?
Yeah, I'll start. I'm on starting. So one thing we always start with is what makes the Giants a tough matchup. But first, I just thought I would drop this interesting fact here. Dad, did you know that this is the first London game between 2 teams with winning records?
We were talking about this earlier, and I did not realize that when you first told me. And I was like, I guess it's because the Jags go so often?
Yeah, that's what everyone has said. Everyone who has heard that quote has been like, it's because of the Jaguars, right? It's because of the Jaguars. But,
and then I had a couple of sort of general thoughts about that before we talk about specifics about how, and this maybe goes about a little bit with the sort of what's going on in Giants world, that only Minnesota is going to has a lower rated
defense
of the
opponents,
the Green Bay opponents to date. And as strange as it sounds, the Giants are going to have the second best passing offense we've seen so far. That's via DVOA.
That is stunning. That's Football Outsiders?
Yeah.
They have the second best passing offense of the teams we played?
Passing offense of the teams we played so far. Well,
we
played the Bears, the Bears and the Patriots.
Well, is Tampa 1?
Oh, who's number 1 in
It's okay if you don't have it. It's okay if you don't have it, but
Baltimore.
I was just curious. No, of the teams we played.
Oh, the teams we played. It's
It might be the Vikings.
It's Minnesota.
I was gonna say it might be the Vikings. Man, that's a tough look for Tampa. You hate to see it. You hate to see it for Tom Brady. But anyways.
Oh wait, no, I was wrong. So, that's overall passing. That's overall, not passing. Let's look at the passing.
Okay, quick correction.
But it is.
So they have the second best overall offense of the teams we've seen so far. Well, we can move on through this.
Yeah, the third. No, Tampa has the best.
I was going to say
missed Tampa. It's Tampa, then Minnesota, then the Giants.
Okay, that makes some more sense. I was like, man, that's a tough look for Tampa. But anyways, moving on to what makes the Giants a tough matchup. So the things that I think make this team a tough matchup are usually, I think for the Packers would make them a tough matchup, is usually it would be Daniel Jones' legs, but with his ankle being kind of busted up, I don't expect him to be nearly as mobile. The Packers have struggled with mobile quarterbacks in the past. I know it's a long time ago, but see Colin Kaepernick. And see Tyler Huntley even last year. They could not stop him. See Taylor Heineke.
Taylor Heineke last year.
They can't handle.
This is not a 1-year phenomenon.
Yes, this is decades of a history. I mean, see Michael Vick in 2000 whatever when we lost our first playoff game at Lambeau ever. The Packers have never been able to handle running quarterbacks, and they just can't do it. But with Daniel Jones' ankle being kind of beat up, I don't foresee him being as big of a threat on the ground. And so that kind of just brings me to Saquon, MF, and Barkley as the note I have here. I mean, he has just been a beast this year and leading the league in rushing, pretty decent yards per clip. He's just really, really good. And I think that rushing attack is, I mean, they were giving up more yards to the Bears rushing attack, which is not nearly as good as Saquon. So I think that's going to be a tough matchup for them.
Yeah, I mean, Saquon's been pretty, though I think their overall running grade is not that great, though Saquon has been so good.
Yeah.
But I'll talk a little bit about that later, but one of the things that I wanted to bring up that could make the Giants a tough matchup is their pass rush has some talent.
Not necessarily on the outside, but more on the interior.
No, so Dexter Lawrence, he's like first in PFF grade for pass rush as a interior defender, as a defensive tackle. He's ahead of
And that's
Aaron Donald.
I was going to say, that's not the usual first besides Aaron Donald that you usually get for DTs. It's actually first.
But as a whole defense, so he's been kind of their alpha dog there on the pass rush. And I guess Ojulari has done some damage as well, but he'll be missing.
Yeah.
So that's actually going to be a big blow for them. Their overall, the team is 10th in sack percentage, but then by the ESPN metric, pass rush win rate, they're only 18th, so more middle of the pack. And then against,
and just to kind of loop it in, sack percentage is number of sacks per dropback, and pass rush win rate is number of pressures per dropback.
Within 2.5 seconds.
Within 2.5 seconds, yes.
It does have to be within 2.5 seconds. And then for the Green Bay on the pass pro side, that the pass company is, only Myers has at his position a pass block win rate in the top 10 for Green Bay. He's the only Green Bay offensive lineman in the top 10 in ESPN's pass block win rate.
He was second
among centers.
And because he has not even played a full season's worth of games yet when you think about it.
Yeah. And then none of the Green Bay offensive linemen were in the top 10 at their position for run block win rate. Mm-hmm. Though PFF's ratings likes Runyon's pass blocking more than ESPN's.
Which is interesting because Andy Herman of the Pack-A-Day podcast, his grades did not particularly like what Runyon's been putting on tape the past few weeks and has felt like he's been struggling. And usually his grades and PFF's are mostly in line. So I find it interesting that there's a lot of there's a kind of a
and you hear a lot about
there.
Runyon not giving up any sacks yet, but then I hadn't looked at like sort of the down by down analysis that PFF and Andy does on his own.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely seems like that interior is going to be tested. Newman has actually been pretty good this year, I feel like. Much better than last year. And let's remember, he's only in his second year in the league. But I do think this is going to be a big test for him, especially if Leonard Williams can also go. He was limited, like we said. But that duo, Leonard Williams and Dexter Lawrence, is really tough interior.
Yeah, and I think Newman's run blocking has been better than his pass blocking, if I am correct.
Yeah, I mean,
I haven't looked into that in that much detail. But I thought I'd heard that.
I've always felt like he's been better on the move than just straight up trying to take a guy in his chest, but that's kind of how we feel like what makes the Giants a tough matchup, that is. But Dad, how do you think that the Giants are going to try to specifically exploit the Packers?
So we talked about this a little bit already. It's kind of the obvious. I think the Giants are going to try to run, and when they're done with that, they're going to run some more.
Maybe run one more time just to be safe.
That they'll hand Saquon the ball or just hike it to him in Wildcat to try to exploit Green Bay's 28th ranked run defense by DVOA.
It's that bad? It's 28th?
Green Bay's run defense is 28th by DVOA.
Oh, goodness. Okay.
But the Giants are even worse.
We'll talk about that later. Or run defense? Oh,
their
okay. Yeah,
defense.
We'll talk about that later. Then.
And New York, the Giants' run game, they're 7th on their offensive run game is much better than their passing by DVOA. The passing is 19th, and their run offense is 7th. Mm-hmm. Now, one thing that's kind of interesting, and I looked at their the Giants' success in the direction of the runs, and they're by far the best on going outside the left tackle, so around the left end.
I mean, Andrew Thomas has been, we'll talk about this later as well, I will, but Andrew Thomas is quietly having a very good year at left tackle.
Yeah, he was in there for run blocking, I think, on one of those lists as being one of the top 10 in run blocking, I think it was.
And he's holding up in the pass pro, too. Like he's kicking butt out there.
But the Giants, when it comes to running around the left end for yards per run, they're first in the league. But in other directions, they are not as good. It's interesting. So just behind the tackle or up the middle, they're more middle of the pack. So it's really kind of like breaking around wide left is where they've really been.
Just running behind
twice as many. Well, or yeah, probably he's like moving out in space and running behind him as he's running wide. But it's like twice as many yards per carry there as some of the other directions.
I mean, the edges are going to have to hold up because that was something that they kind of struggled with versus. I mean, they kind of struggled with that versus the Patriots, especially with. I feel like the linebackers not like. I think it was on the edges, but I also feel like the linebackers did not scrape hard enough to the sidelines. They came up a little too hard. I know Campbell got they bounced someone, I think it was Ramondre Stevenson, bounced outside on him a couple different times. One specifically sticks in my mind where Campbell just came up way too hard and didn't contain. But the edges weren't containing either, and so that's definitely something they're going to have to look at. For me...
Yeah, Gary's run defense grade has been pretty good so far, but the others are not. I mean, the edge, so they have to be able to hold the edge and also be able to disengage from the block at the moment to try to... stop the ball carrier.
It's all part of holding the edge, yeah. I mean, they gotta.
But that's I think. In watching some of last game, I think that's one of the things they failed at. They were actually holding their position well a couple times, but then the
couldn't get off the block.
Ran around them.
Yeah. For me, I think I was telling you this before we recorded, but I think this is just like the Packers should 100% win this game. I think that this is a way better matchup for them than New England was, even though they're favored by less points in this game than they were versus New England. And so, of course, the Giants are going to beat them. I think that if Daniel Jones was healthy, and if he is healthier than we think he is, I would think that the Giants would run tons of boot actions, rollouts, put the guy in the flat in a bind, move the pocket, kind of get him off, get the pass rushers off their target, and just try and beat the Packers that way. But if he can't move, that kind of cuts out a lot of their offense. And so I think the main recourse for them is going to be slowing the game down, trying to limit the number of possessions, try and kind of squeak out an edge in the turnover battle, and just try and make the game as messy as possible. I mean, I think that they win a messy game if they win, and I think that that's going to be... Like, that's going to have to be the strategy for them. And like you said already, obviously, that goes without saying, give Saquon the ball. Over under 30 carries for Saquon this game. Like, legitimately, over under 30 carries.
Well, that's a good question. That's really old school football. That's like 70s and 80s style. But let's go 30 is a lot.
He only had 21 last game.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, no. Sorry, this is an old one. He had... let's see. He had how many do you think he had last game?
I'm gonna say 24.
He had 31 last game. So over under 28. Over under 28 carries.
Okay,
I take the under, but not by much.
I might hit the over on 28.
But yeah, so they're going to give Saquon the ball a lot.
Yeah, I mean, because one thing that, in addition to like the scrambling mentioned, is also the Daniel Jones just designed runs.
So many designed runs for him, and they're very effective.
Runs, and it has no intention of ever passing.
When he doesn't trip over his own feet, they're very effective.
But at least he was 50 yards downfield when
that's
he did
true.
that.
Still a 60-yard gain. Still a great play. But anyway, that's kind of how we think that the Giants are going to...
got him.
Casper the Ghost got him. That's kind of how we think that the Giants are going to try and exploit the Packers. But, the Packers, I mean, they get paid too, like they always say. So, Dad, how do we think that the Packers are going to try to exploit the Giants going the other way?
So one of the things I'll say first about in terms of from the Green Bay defensive perspective is they're first in defensive third down percentage.
Yeah, it's crazy because they're like 28th and 29th in yards allowed on first and second down. And then on third down, it's like Iron Curtain. Iron Curtain comes down.
Because when you hear the announcers talk about it, they always say, yeah, so they're really like making them work on first and second. But no.
No, they're not. The thing is, what was it? Benjamin Solak on The Ringer was saying, he's like, because he had qualms or gripes with the Packers defense and was saying like, hey, like a defense with this much talent, like shouldn't be waiting for the opponent to get to third down so you can turn up like actually play hard. But I agree, but that's what they're doing kind of right now. But they have a great third down defense.
Yeah, and so they're also fifth in sack percentage
on third down, or
I think that's in general. I don't think that wasn't broken down by down. So it'd be nice to try to force the Giants into passing situations, by forcing third and long. But it may be that even if it's third and long, that they'll still run
anyway.
The ball because of what their offense is going to look like.
Are we going to get a Joe Judge 3rd and 7 QB sneak special?
Oh boy.
And
then the other thing. So then on the other side, that in terms of how the Packers might exploit the Giants' D, the Giants' defense is only 23rd overall by Football Outsiders (DVOA), and they're bad against both the run and the pass. They're even worse than Green Bay in yards per run. It's like 5. They give up like 5.1, and we give up 5 per carry, and they're right in the middle of the pack in yards per pass attempt. So I'd say look for Green Bay to pound the run, and the Giants are last in yards per rush up the middle. That's where they're worst in yards behind the center and the guards. So maybe this will possibly be a Dillon game.
I would love to see a Dillon game. He's been okay so far, but hasn't really had a really big game yet. But also, it took him a few games last year to get started too. So.
Yeah, and the Giants are also bad against pass catching running backs. They got everything going.
I mean, it does seem like the Packers should win this. I feel like I'm getting too confident.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
No, I don't feel like I'm taking crazy pills, but I do feel like I'm getting too confident because I just think that the Packers, this is a really good matchup for the Packers, especially with the Giants being dinged up. And so my thing was, we talked a little bit about how good Andrew Thomas has been, how well they've run behind him, how well he's played. But on the other side, Evan Neal, their rookie 7th overall pick, has really, I wouldn't say really struggled, but he has struggled so far. He has allowed a 7.6% pressure rate, while the league average is 5.3. That's from Michael Nania on Twitter. So I think that Gary should really be able to attack that right side. And if Daniel Jones is the quarterback playing, which all indications are that it will be, he does not really have the best pocket presence or ball security. I mean, he averages 0.88 fumbles per game over his career. He only has 1 so far on the year, so positive regression.
So he's due for 4?
He's due. Anyone who gambles enough knows that he's due. But seriously,
to get up to his average, he's got to give up 3 this game.
But unironically, though, positive regression would say that he's due for a fumble. And I think that if the Packers win the turnover battle, they win this game absolutely easily. And losing the turnover battle is one of the few ways that they would lose. So that's kind of how I think the Packers really match up well with the Giants, is attacking that right tackle spot with Gary and just being like, "Hey, Rook, welcome to the league."
Yeah, and also and then that combine that with Kenny up the middle, especially if Danny Dimes, I've got the right Danny, right?
Yeah,
Danny Dimes is immobile because that'll be just like a sitting duck in there.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely seems like a matchup that's ripe for the Packers. But let's kind of move on and kind of start to wrap it up. Dad, what are you keeping your eye out for specifically in this game?
So one thing I want to keep an eye out for is, how does Green Bay align their defense? Will they finally use heavier boxes to slow down the run, considering how many receivers the Giants are going to be missing, that either they're down to a third string, well, maybe I suppose it could be still a second string quarterback or a third string quarterback, or a severely hobbled quarterback. Because it seemed like last week they were slow to respond to the 6th offensive lineman when New England made an adjustment, and it took them. And
Barry said that. He said that they didn't respond quick enough to that 6th lineman,
and that, I think, was that stretch where the first half, like, Gary's just wrecking their whole offense, and then they started going with a 6th offensive lineman. They started getting more time in the pocket, better pressure, and more push for the run game on those 2 scoring drives. And then the Packers kind of regrouped and shut them down at the end. And it'd be nice if they had their answers a little faster.
Yeah, I agree.
And maybe thought in advance, like, this could happen. Let's be ready. What are we going to do for it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and then we already talked about my other thing, which is Daniel Jones going to be able to run. So what are you looking for?
Yeah, so like you said, how the Packers defense aligns, I'm curious to see specifically within that how much Penny they play, because it feels like they've been better in Penny so far, which is 1 linebacker and 5D linemen and then 5 DBs, which is what they played a lot of last year. And I'm also kind of interested
5D linemen counting the 2 edges.
Though. Yes, counting the 2 edges. And then I'm also interested to see kind of will they be a bit more aggressive with a less mobile quarterback? I think that's more of a... I'm curious to see how they are game plan specific, because I feel like that's something that they haven't necessarily done in the past that I would like to see them do. With a less mobile quarterback who doesn't have great ball security, I would like to see some more blitzes. I know that Barry is averse to blitzing. The Packers don't blitz much at all. But that's kind of something I'm looking for. I would like to see them try some blitzing just so they get some practice at it, so they have that arrow in their quiver. This feels like an ideal game for it. I know you don't want to do it too often because it does leave you open to an explosive run. But on obvious passing downs, I would like to see them send some extra pressure. That's kind of something I'm looking out for. But yeah, so let's kind of circle the wagons, wrap this thing up. Dad, your players to watch for the game, or player to watch for the game.
So the player that I watched is kind of an obvious. So I suppose I should have been a little bit more creative, but I picked Rashawn Gary.
I mean, he's the best player on the Packers right now.
And so in some ways, it might be the most entertaining part of the game to watch. It has been for a lot of games, and so watch him. He's like second in ESPN run stop rate, I think I alluded to, and ninth in pass rush win rate.
It's a tough
for
one
edges. And the Giants are only 25th in pass block win rate as a team. And you mentioned Evan Neal's struggles, so
he should be able to get after him a little bit.
Yeah, so that's yeah. I copped out and took an easy answer.
Yes, you did. Over under 1.5 sacks for Gary in this game. Just gut feeling.
I'm gonna hit the over.
There you go. Okay, I'll take the over too. Honestly, I think he goes for multiple sacks in this game. My player to watch is Devondre Campbell. The Giants have a really good run game. He's going to need to play well to help shut it down. And he honestly hasn't been quite as good so far this year as last. Obviously, he's still been quite good. Just not quite first team All-Pro. Just a quick statistic that kind of shows that is, according to Matt Schneidman on Twitter, he has missed 6 tackles in 4 games so far after missing just 4 all of last year. The tackling as a team has not been as good, but that's kind of also something like that I forgot to mention that I would like the Packers to please do well in this game is tackle. And one other thing I forgot to mention that I just want to touch on really quick that I was going to put in my what we're keeping an eye out for, and I forgot to put it down. I want to see how the Packers travel, because the Packers the past 3 years have not traveled well. And I think that's very fair to say. Whenever they, especially traveling west, but this will be the furthest they've ever had to travel. And I'm just curious to see how it goes, because in the past they have came out very flat after traveling long distances. And that's my biggest nightmare scenario for the game, is they just lay a complete egg because they are completely out of it from travel. London games are always weird, But like I said, just to circle back, Devondre Campbell is my player to watch. He's going to have to play well for them to slow down Saquon Barkley. Saquon is very dynamic, very good tackle breaker. He's my player to watch. Do you want to finish up with a quick score prediction?
Sure. So I made my score prediction early on in putting my notes together, and I picked 31-13. And then I looked up the last time they played, and
31-13.
It's 31-13.
You know what Matthew McConaughey would say? Time is a flat circle.
Time is a flat circle. I was going to say, all right.
I could get behind 31-13. It's a palindrome, too, so it's extra fun.
Right. How about you? What was your prediction?
I think Packers 31-17. I think they start fast, hit a massive lull in the middle, and then put it away at the end, because we can never enjoy a complete game with this team. I would love to see it, but we just haven't gotten one yet.
Yeah. That's the other thing that we didn't really talk about. I would like to see a quicker start to the game. So far this year, they've had slow starts on offense and defense for the most part.
Yeah, and it's weird because, so speaking of slow starts on defense, we might as well just talk a little bit more. They have allowed a score on every first drive of the game so far. Do you think that trend continues on Sunday?
Ooh.
So
it was all about the Packers in this question, because I don't think this question is really a question about the Giants.
Yeah, and
with
it's
the
weird
state
because
of their offense.
you could argue they're trending up because they allowed a touchdown to the Vikings and a touchdown to the Bears on their first drives, and then have allowed a field goal to Tampa and a field goal to... Help me, please. I'm blanking. And a field goal to the Patriots. Sorry.
So the Patriots, like,
who
you
did
caused me to blank.
I was like, who did they play last week? A field goal to the Patriots. We already talked about them. But they're kind of trending in the right direction, but they have yet to get a stop on the first drive of the game. And you could say it's because the drives are scripted, but you got a defense this talented, you should be able to get some stops. So do you think that trend continues, is I guess what I'm saying? Because I'm going to
go
with yes. I think the trend continues.
Which is the trend that the score is going down?
No, I think
weeks
they're going
on, or that they give up a score every week.
I think they give up a field goal on the first drive again.
Okay.
I think they bend don't break. I think they bend don't break.
I'm going to waffle big time here.
They get the ball first and give up a safety.
They get. That's to have the score trending down.
Got him.
If the Packers get the ball and score first, then they will not give up a score.
Okay. If the Packers start with the ball?
If the Packers start with the ball and score, then they will not give up a score on their first defensive.
All gas,
outing.
no break. That's what we like to
break.
see. Yeah, it's just so tough because I think they always start a little, I feel like, tentative. I think that they're going to get... They always defer also. I hate it. You hate it. We hate it. We can go into that sometime, but I just think this team is built to play with a lead and always have been, and they should always take the ball first if they can.
I think for years it's made it so that it affects their ability to play defense. Because it affects the kind of play calling that their opponents do that then makes their defense more effective if they can get out to a lead.
And especially with a team like the Giants, you want to play them out of the running game. Like, you would like to make them pass as much as possible.
But if you can put them into passing situations, that's a good thing.
Yeah. But anyway, those are kind of our last final closing thoughts on the game. I think the Packers win. I think the Packers moved 4-1. I think I'm not as impressed with the team as I would like to be after the game once again. But a win's a win, a win's a win, hopefully. And should we wrap this thing up?
I think we're ready.
All right. So thanks so much for joining us. This has been our pregame for the Packers-Giants London game coming on Sunday. You can catch our postgame that Sunday night. We'll be recording and releasing Sunday evening. You can listen to that then or on Monday morning. Listen to it on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, wherever you can find podcasts, you can find this. Please come follow us on Twitter, like I already said, at FatherSonPacker. Subscribe to us on YouTube, Father Son Packers Podcast. It would really help our numbers. We'd really appreciate it. Dad, anything to say to the lovely people, lovely listeners?
Just go Pack Go.
Just go Pack Go. I couldn't think of a better way to end it myself.